Before you watch another second of this video, I need you to answer one question honestly. How long have you been trying to learn a language? 2 years? 5 years? Maybe you started in high school and you're still not fluent. Here's the brutal truth that nobody in the language learning industry wants you to hear. 90% of people who try to learn a language never even make it to a level where they can have basic conversations. 90%. That means that if you're watching this right now, statistically, you're probably going to fail. Unless you do exactly what I'm about to show you in the next few minutes. My name is Mikkel, and I speak 12 languages. I developed a fast and efficient language learning system at the Innovation Center of the University of Deusto. I'm not going to waste your time with theory, and I'm not going to give you some motivational speech about how you can do it if you believe in yourself and enjoy the process. None of that nonsense. I'm going to give you the exact 3-step system that took me from zero to conversational in weeks, not years, over and over again. And it worked for thousands of my students as well. And if you stay until the end, I'll show you one more technique that accelerates everything by at least 50%. And by the way, this is not about learning effortlessly, the lazy way. This is hard work. Most people want to do this, and that's why most people fail. Let's get into it. First, I need to destroy some lies you've been told. Lie number 1. You need to study grammar to speak a language. This is the biggest nonsense in language education. Think about it. When you were 2 years old, did your mom sit you down with a textbook and explain grammar rules? Did she give you multiple choice exercises? No, of course not. You learned by listening and repeating sentences over and over again. And they constantly corrected your mistakes until you got it right. That's it. Grammar books are designed to make you feel like you're making progress without actually learning to speak. You can spend 5 years studying verb conjugation tables and still freeze the moment a native speaker asks you a question. I know lots of people who know the grammar rules in English but can't have a basic conversation. That's actually most people in Spain after a few years of English classes in the school system. It's really horrible. You don't need grammar. Grammar is a side effect of learning a language, not a prerequisite. You don't need grammar at all. Throw away your grammar books. I'm serious. If you have one next to you right now, literally throw it in the bin. Or keep it, just in case people start panicking again and holding toilet paper and supermarkets run out. Anyway, stop using it. It's slowing you down. Line number 2. Apps make you fluent. No, they don't. Apps are, for the most part, a massive waste of time. Except one app I'll tell you about at the end of the video. You should definitely get that one. But most of them, a complete waste of time. Especially if they've got animals and bright colors. You know it's not made for smart people. So let me ask you something. How many people do you know with a 500-day streak who can actually speak the target language? 0? Yeah, that's what I thought. Those apps are designed to be addictive, not effective. They gamify learning because it keeps you coming back, not because it makes you fluent. You're not learning a language. You're playing a video game with a language theme. The points mean nothing. The streaks you have mean nothing, and the little green all means nothing. What matters is this. Can you understand when someone speaks to you at a normal speed? Can you respond in a way that makes sense and sounds natural? Can you have a proper conversation? If you've been using these apps for months and the answer is still no, that should tell you everything you need to know. Line number 3. Just immerse yourself and you'll learn naturally. This is the one that is causing the most damage lately. The immersion crowd loves to say things like, just watch TV shows in Spanish, or just listen to podcasts. Just surround yourself with the language. Sounds nice, but doesn't work. Or rather, it works incredibly slowly and not for speaking. Yes, if you spend 6 hours a day watching content in your target language for 3 years, you'll eventually understand it. Congratulations, you just wasted thousands of hours doing something you could have done in weeks. Passive immersion is like trying to learn to swim by watching Olympic swimmers on TV. You can watch all day and you might learn something useful, but unless you practiced properly, you're still going to drown when you jump in the pool. Your brain needs active practice, and your brain needs a system. And that's exactly what I'm about to give you. So here's what actually works. Just 3 things. That's it. 3 things done correctly, and you will be having real conversations faster than you ever thought possible. Step 1. Build your sentence list. This is the foundation that changes everything. Most people try to learn random stuff. You memorize all kinds of random words because some app you're using gives you those words. And many of those words, you'll never use them in a real conversation. So why are you learning them before words you actually use all the time? So here's what you do instead. You create a list of every sentence you would actually need to say in real life. Not words, sentences. Full, complete sentences that you can use immediately. Think about your actual life. What do you talk about at work? What would you talk about with friends if you had them? What do you ask for at restaurants, at stores, or at the doctor? What are your hobbies or your opinions? What stories do you normally tell? These are all your language islands. Islands of vocabulary and sentences centered around topics that actually matter to you. Here's how you do this practically. For a few days, talk to yourself constantly. Yes, out loud. Yes, you look a little crazy, but who cares? Use a speech-to-text app on your phone to capture everything you say. Narrate your entire life. When you wake up, say what you're going to do today. When you're making breakfast, say, I'm going to have eggs and coffee, or whatever you have for breakfast. When you're frustrated and bored at work, say, this meeting could have been an email. Every single thing you say or think during the day, capture it. And after a few days, you'll have pages and pages of useful, valuable text. This is your personal blueprint, your language islands. These are the exact sentences you need to learn, because these are the sentences you actually use. And now use AI to translate all of those sentences into your target language. You'll end up with a few thousand sentences that are completely personalized to your life. Not some generic textbook phrases that you'll never use. You'll learn your own phrases. This is the difference between learning for a test and learning to communicate. Now, here's something most people miss. When you learn full sentences, you're learning grammar as well, without studying grammar rules. You're not studying lists of Spanish tenses and conjugations. You're just learning them inside hundreds of examples, and your brain absorbs patterns automatically. And after a few hundred sentences, you'll already feel what sounds right. Just like a native speaker. No textbook required. Okay, this makes sense, but how do you actually learn these sentences? Well, very simple. Step 2. Flood your ears with audio, but not the way most people do it. This is where most people completely drop the ball. They hear you need immersion and lots of listening to learn a language, and they start binge watching YouTube videos in the language. That's mostly noise, and it's not very helpful no matter how much you do it. Here's what you should do instead. Take all those sentences you prepared and translated and create audio files. You can use AI text-to-speech for this. Just make sure you're using a natural sounding voice. And now you have audio for every sentence you need to know. Listen to those sentences on repeat. When you're commuting, you're listening. When you're working out, you're listening. When you're doing dishes, you're listening. When you're pretending to work in the office, you're listening to your sentences. Your goal is to hear each sentence so many times that you know exactly what it sounds like before you even hear it, and you're able to reproduce it as well. At some point, you should be able to predict the next sentence because you heard it so many times. And this does two things. First, it trains your ear to recognize the sounds and the rhythm of the language at full speed. No slowing down, no artificial pronunciation for beginners. Real speaking speed over and over until your brain adapts. But also, it embeds these sentences into your long-term memory, without you having to consciously study. This is passive review, and it's incredibly powerful if done right. While everyone else is wasting their time with YouTube videos or grinding through flashcards, you're absorbing the exact sentences you want to use. Now, here's the key. You're not just listening passively. Once you understand it easily, you also start shadowing. Shadowing means you repeat out loud exactly what you hear at the same time. This connects your listening to your speaking. You're training your mouth to produce the same sounds. And you're building muscle memory for pronunciation. And you're making the language physical, not just mental. Most people listen but never speak. And then they wonder why they struggle to string two sentences together. Your mouth needs to practice, just like your ears do. So shadow everything. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I know if I'm saying it correctly? Great question. And the reality of it is, you won't know 100%, but if you repeat the same exact sentences over and over again, and you pay attention to what you're listening to, you'll gradually improve your pronunciation. And if you're a perfectionist, you can Record yourself. Seriously. Record yourself saying the sentences and then compare it to the original audio. And you'll notice the differences in pronunciation a lot more. You can also send the audio files to a native speaker if you want. And you keep adjusting and repeating. And this feedback loop will help you improve quickly. But don't worry too much about pronunciation and mistakes in general. Like I said at the beginning of the video, most people never get good enough at a foreign language to have even basic conversations. You're allowed to make mistakes. The vast majority of native speakers won't care. And if the occasional weirdo has something to say about your speaking not being perfect, chances are they are way worse at foreign languages than you are. And if you think about it, the people who feel the need to point out your mistakes when you're speaking, there's probably something very wrong with them in general, so ignore those people. You don't want to interact with them anyway. When speaking the language, focus on communicating effectively, getting what you want, and having fun. And I know most people skip the speaking part because it's uncomfortable, especially in the beginning. It's not exactly fun, but this discomfort is actually good. It means you're improving, so embrace it. Speak as much as you can, because you will only get better and it will only get easier. And speaking of hard work and improving fast, step 3, active recall. Active recall is the single most effective exercise you can do to learn a foreign language. It's a non-negotiable. This is the step that separates people who kinda know a language from people who can actually speak it. Listening and shadowing are great, but they're still kinda passive. You're following along. You're not producing language. But active recall means you force your brain to produce the language from scratch. Just you and your brain, struggling to remember. Here's how you do it. Take one of your English sentences and without looking at the translation, try to say it in your target language. Don't just think it. Say it out loud and then check if you were right. And if you got it wrong, that's fine. Nobody gets it right the first time. That struggle, that frustration, that's when your brain is actually learning. Getting it wrong and then seeing the correct answer creates a memory that sticks. Getting it right without any effort means you already knew it. And this is why comprehensible input alone doesn't work. You need to practice your ability to form sentences quickly. It's difficult, of course, but that's how building real skills works. You need to struggle. You need to get frustrated. That friction is when learning happens. So do this daily. And the more, the better. Maybe in small doses at first, if you struggle to make yourself do it because it's hard. Like when working out or doing anything else that's hard. Start small and slowly increase the amount you do per day. And every day, it'll get easier. Because every day, you'll get better at it. Go through your sentences one by one, forcing yourself to produce them from memory. And over time, you'll need to check less and less. And one day, the sentences will just come out automatically, without thinking. That's fluency. And that's what we're building here. Now, here's the advanced move that takes this into another level. Talk to yourself throughout the day, trying to use your sentences in context. When you're about to send an email, try to narrate what you're doing in your target language. When you're ordering coffee, mentally rehearse how you'd say it. When you're complaining about something, do it in your new language first. You're basically role-playing your own life in another language. This sounds strange, but it's incredibly effective. You're creating real mental situations where you actually need the language, which is exactly what you'll face in actual conversations. The more you practice on your own, the less you'll freeze when it's real. And of course, do it aloud, so the muscles in your mouth get used to it too, not just your brain. Okay, now let me show you how all of this fits together in a typical day. Because a system is useless if you don't actually implement it. So in the morning, you wake up, and while you're getting ready, you have your sentence audio playing, and you're shadowing while you brush your teeth, while you get dressed, etc. That's already 20 minutes at least of listening or shadowing without taking any extra time from your day. And then you go to work. If you drive, the audio is playing in your car and you're shadowing. If you take the public transit, you have your earbuds in, listening. Maybe don't repeat sentences aloud on the public transport, or people will think you're insane. Unless you're in Berlin. If you do it there, it's probably fine. Anyway, the commute gives you another 30 or 40 minutes of exposure to the language, specifically to your own sentences. And then, at work, you probably have a lunch break. This is a good time to do 10 or 15 minutes of active recall. You go through your sentence list, trying to produce each one from memory. You check yourself, you note which ones are hard, and you move on. This is high-intensity, focused work. Efficient. 15 minutes a day is enough if you're actually pushing yourself. And it's even better if you do multiple small sessions spread out throughout the day. And then once you leave work in the afternoon, you can go back to listening to your sentences on the way home. You can also try to speak to yourself in the language, using the sentences you keep hearing. If you speak to your phone, nobody will think you're crazy. And once you get home, I highly recommend you do a serious learning session that involves as much active recall as possible. Doing another 10 or 20 minutes of active recall is already really good, but an hour or two, if you can manage it, would be great, especially if you do it before bed. Research shows that reviewing before sleep dramatically improves retention. Your brain processes and consolidates during sleep. Use that. So total extra time this has taken from your day, well, depends on how committed you are, and of course, the more you do it, the better, but it can take as little as 30 minutes of focused practice a day to do all of this. Because the rest, it happened while you were doing other things anyway. Most people say that they don't have time to learn a language. What they mean is they don't have 3 hours to sit down in a classroom. You don't need 3 hours. What you need is to use your dead time intelligently. And here's what happens if you actually do this consistently. In week 1, everything will be very hard. You'll be struggling to remember even simple sentences, and you won't be able to say anything at all. This is normal. Keep going. Week 2, some sentences are already starting to stick. And you can correctly recall maybe 20 or 30% of the sentences without checking. Your ear is also starting to adjust to the sounds. In week 3, things start clicking way faster. You're starting to notice patterns. Sentences that used to take 3 seconds to say now take 1. And a week later, you can already do basic conversations. Not perfectly, but functionally. You can understand when people speak to you slowly, at least about the topics you've been preparing for, and you can respond with real sentences, not just yes or no. You keep working on it, and in week 6, you're genuinely conversational. You'll still make mistakes, you'll still have some gaps, but you can communicate, and you can express complex ideas. And you can understand most of what you hear as well. This is what's possible when you have the right system and discipline. Now, remember at the beginning, I promised to show you one technique that accelerates everything. Here it is. We can call this pre-input comprehension, and it's a complete game changer. Usually, when you start learning a language, you can't watch native content until you've already done a lot of learning. You watch a video in Spanish and you understand maybe 10% of what they say, and that's being generous. So that was 10% you already kind of knew, and then the other 90% was noise. Not much learning going on there. Your brain couldn't grab onto it because you had no framework. But here's how you fix that. Before you watch or listen to any native content, get the transcript. You can get the transcript of YouTube videos from the video description. That's also how other YouTubers copy my videos. So you take the transcript and you study it first. You memorize the new words you see in the transcript. And then you watch the content. Now, suddenly, you understand way more. 70, 80, maybe even 90%. And every sentence you hear reinforces something you just learned. Because your brain is making connections. You're not guessing anymore. You recognize it. And this is how you can use native content for language learning early on effectively. This one technique will save you thousands of hours of wasted time on YouTube, pretending to learn. It will help you understand native speaker content that is actually interesting, fast. It turns any kind of content that is interesting but still incomprehensible into enjoyable practice that actually sticks. Try it once with content you're really interested in, and you'll never go back to learn beginner Spanish with comprehensible input videos. Now, some of you are thinking that all of this sounds like a lot of work, and you're right, it is work. Anyone who tells you learning a language requires no effort is lying to you. But here's the difference. This is work that actually produces results. So you can spend 2 more years with Duolingo and language classes and still not speak, or you can do 6 weeks of focused, intelligent practice and start having real conversations. It's more effort now, but you'll get dramatically better results, and long term, you'll spend less time learning the language. The question is whether you're going to keep doing what doesn't work or switch to what actually does. I've developed a language learning app that uses all these principles I just talked about, like language islands, shadowing, active recall, to learn languages actively and become fluent fast. If you're serious about language learning, check it out.